Hello, it's Tracy Kiernan, and this acrylic painting tutorial is going to show you how to paint Seaside Parade. So we have a bunch of colorful umbrellas lined up along a simple beach backdrop. And I'm going to show you how to do this on a 10 by 20 canvas. You do not have to use 10 by 20 for this. I just thought it would be super fun to use and different to use the long canvas for this design. It was actually worked out very well because you can fit a lot of umbrellas all lined up, but you can also do this on the 11 by 14 and pretty much do almost the same thing. You would just kind of squish the umbrellas closer together. Let's go over brushes and colors. So for the texture in the water, we will be using what I call a bristle brush, which is a brush that has the natural kind of stiff textured bristles, which makes it so that when we stamp white paint, we get the little splashes in the ocean. You can also do this effect with a sponge or perhaps even a Q-tip or any kind of round brush that has kind of a stiff texture to it, like a stencil brush. And then I will be using a number 12 bright brush, so I use this mostly to get the color of the umbrellas filled in, and then a number 4 round brush, which is used for some detail work. A 3/4 inch flat wash brush, which we'll be using for filling the sky and the ocean and water or ocean and sand color in. This 3/8 inch angle brush is optional, but I'll be using that for the fine lines of the umbrella poles and water lines. And if you could also use like a fine detail brush, like an 8 long round brush, or even a paint pen for some of the smaller lined detail work in this painting. But I won't be using a paint pen, but if you want to use that, that's a helpful tool. And then colors, there's going to be 8 colors in this painting. So I'll be using Liquitex Basics, Napthol Crimson. Naples Yellow is the color that we'll be using for the yellow sand in this. Cad Yellow Medium Hue, Titanium White, and Primary Blue, Mars Black, Deep Violet, and Cerulean Blue. Some of the umbrella colors can actually be customized, so if you want to use your own colors, feel free to get very creative with this one. And then a ruler and pencil and chalk for some of the drawing parts of this. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, I'm going to be doing this on the 10 by 20. If you're not feeling adventurous, you can do this on the 11 by 14 or whatever size canvas you like to work on. So whatever size you're using, you want to figure out first where about 1/3 of the canvas is. So since my canvas is 10 inches high when I'm placing it horizontally like this, I'm going to kind of round this to 3.25. So I'm just taking my ruler right now and marking from the top down about 3.25 inches. So that's about 1/3 of the canvas. It doesn't have to be exactly 1/3. You can just estimate 1/3. That's fine. And you want to do a horizontal line. So that is where our horizon line is going to be. So that horizon line is where the sky is going to meet the ocean. And we want to do a light horizontal line all the way across. And then after you get your line placed in, we want to draw our shoreline. So this one I'm not going to measure, but you can estimate maybe about halfway below that line to the bottom of the canvas. Of course, it's not going to be halfway all the way because we want to draw this long wavy line that kind of curves down and curves back up, and that's going to represent the line where the ocean, the shore meets the sand. Next, let's get our paint palette ready, and we're going to start with Cerulean Blue and Titanium White. This blue is a common blue that we use for skies in landscape paintings. Occasionally I'll switch it up and use like a light blue permanent, but this one is a really good sky color. So I'm going to take about equal amounts of blue and white and just mix that together on the paint palette. And then take my 3/4 flat and then brush that across all the way across the canvas. So you want to go down about halfway with this blue and white mixture. And before that dries, we want to start blending in a lighter color. So I like to make my skies slightly darker at the top, and I like to make this kind of gradient where it gets lighter and lighter as it goes towards the horizon line. So we want to paint this, and we want to stop at that line that we drew earlier. So I'm just taking this and lightly brushing in that white, letting it blend on the canvas, allowing it to look a little bit streaky. That's okay. It makes it look like there's clouds in the sky. And then bring it all the way down to the horizon line. And you're just loading your brush back in white paint. You really don't need any more blue for this. And just gently brushing that, blending it across so that your whole sky is filled in. If you find that your paint's not spreading easily, try adding a little bit of water to it. A little bit of water to your brush helps make that flow a little bit better, especially if you're working on this bigger surface, because I'm going 20 inches all the way across. So when you are done filling that all up, you don't have to wait for this to dry. You can go ahead and move on to the next step or press pause if you need to. And this is the color Primary Blue. So we're going to use a different kind of blue for our ocean so that it stands out. And we don't even have to rinse our brush for this. It's okay if we get some of the other blue in there, as long as this looks darker. So I'm going to take my Primary Blue. I'm going to go in. This is the furthest point of the ocean. I'm just going to be really careful. I went kind of outside my line there, but that's fine. Maybe the ocean is a little bit higher right there for some reason. And we can take this and bring it all the way across right under our horizon line. So essentially your line that you drew earlier would just kind of disappear. You're either painting that blue over it or you already painted over that pencil line. And take this all the way across and then start filling it in. So again, I'm going to go about halfway with this blue, and then I'm going to start blending in white again, just like what I did with the sky. But right now I'm just using Primary Blue and bringing it down about halfway. And then just like what we did with the sky, we're going to blend a gradient, only we're going to make this with white and Primary Blue. So load your brush in the white without rinsing, grab your white and bring it up into your blue, and be very careful. Don't overload your brush with too much white, because then it'll be harder to blend if there's too much paint on your brush. So I like to just take my color and kind of go over that transition zone. And then our ocean doesn't have to be dark in the back and light in the front. We could have some areas that might look darker towards the front and might look lighter towards the back. So we don't have to actually make this a gradient. We can kind of vary this a little bit. So that's why I grabbed a little bit of Primary Blue, and I'm just going to kind of blend this. I'm going to go back here with more Primary Blue, try to make that horizon line as straight as possible. And if you want to paint the sides of your canvas, you can. And then maybe there's a little bit of dark right here in the middle. And then you want to start, as you're getting close to your shore, you want to start curving your lines. So instead of going left and right, you want to kind of go parallel to that line that you drew earlier. I'm going to bring this down. It's starting to curve right here, and notice how I just decided to make that darker, so we actually have light in the middle and then it blends dark. I'm going to get some more titanium white, because as it approaches the sand, it actually needs to be a lot lighter. So I'm going to take this, get some more white, grab my brush, Sometimes I like to have a rag, I call it my paint rag, handy. So if my brush ever gets overloaded and things aren't blending, I'll just wipe the brush off instead of rinsing it. So this should be fine. It's not too overloaded yet. So I'm going to grab just white and grab that. And I want to get this to start, again, we're going curved now, and we want to start going all the way to that line that we drew earlier. So there's my light color. And then I'm just going to take this and kind of blend it with that dark color I added earlier. And then grab this white. Yours is going to look different from mine, and that is okay. And then grab this and blend this up. And we don't need to overblend the color. That just means we're not brushing it over multiple times until it turns all the same color. We want to just kind of leave it. We like the different variations of blue and white. So I went all the way to my line, and maybe I'll just add a few more streaks of white back here. But I like the different variations of dark and light in that. So then we can add our sand. So I'm going to load my paint palette with the color Naples Yellow. And this time we do need to rinse our brush, otherwise we'll get green sand if we do blue and yellow. So I'm going to rinse this all off and dry it. Grab my Naples Yellow, and I'm going to start at the bottom. Our sandy area is darker at the bottom, and it's going to blend to light at the top. So we're going to do pretty much the same technique again of starting with our dark color and blending in our light color. And take this and go all the way from one side to the next. And I am starting to already curve this because it's sand, so it's not going to be completely flat. It'll be lumpy. Go about halfway up and then grab your white. So see how I'm just loading little bits of white on my brush and then blending that into our yellow color. It'll make that yellow a lot brighter and bring that light color all the way to the end of your shoreline. And don't go over the blue just yet. We're just going to take this all the way to that line and stop. So titanium white, bring this all the way to that line, and we're stopping. We're not going over it yet. We will go over it a little bit in the next step, but right now we're not. And just cover up all of the canvas. There should not be any canvas left over, blank canvas left over. And then maybe I'll just blend a little bit down here at the bottom. But just like with the ocean, we have some streaks of dark and light. In this next step, we're going to paint over our waterline. We're going to make it look like a little bit of that blue is now crossing over part of our sand. So I'm going to rinse my brush off all the way. I want to grab primary blue and white, so mix both blue and white together, but I want to water it down a little bit to almost a watercolor consistency, although it shouldn't be dripping. And then this is a very, very thin layer. So I'm going to take my 3/4 flat, and that line where the blue is going next to the sand, I just want to create about 3/4 inch wide area. So I'm using the full width of the brush, and I'm brushing over the part where the sand is touching the water. And it's okay if it's blending. It kind of helps us out actually if that lighter sand color is now blending with it. And it might turn a little bit of an aqua color actually, but it just gives you that little kind of blurry look of the water going over the sand. It gives you a nice pretty transition. You want to wait for everything to dry before doing this next step. So I'm going to use the blow dryer and dry everything really quick. And then we want our Bristle Brush. So this was the brush that I was showing you about at the beginning. It has the textured bristles that are stiff, and we're going to load the end of it in titanium white, and we're going to use it to stamp our little splash texture on the ocean. And alternatively, you can use a sponge for this, or even like a wadded up paper towel might work as well. So I'm going to get some fresh titanium white onto my paint palette and use the end of the bristles, load that into the white, kind of tap it off on the paper plate so it's not, you don't want a lot of paint on your brush. You want to maybe start out with little bit amounts and kind of experiment with how much you load onto the brush. But I'm going to start by stamping that line. So this is going over our blue and our sand color, both of that, and it's pretty much going over that blurry part that we painted or that we blended earlier in the previous step. So I'm just stamping this all along the shore. You want to kind of experiment with not only loading different amounts of white, but maybe some of the splashes might be going a little bit higher, some might be going lower. Maybe you're adding different pressure on the brush, so you're pressing harder in some areas and softer in others. And then we can do like a little wave back here. So I'm just using this to stamp a little wave shape. I'm going to stamp another little wave piece back here. And then I'm going to go in and kind of add more layering to some of these. So maybe this one gets to be a little bit thicker. And then maybe add some more along the shoreline. So some pieces that are going a little bit higher. They get a second layer so they show up a little bit brighter. So that one, maybe that one's a little bit higher. Maybe there's some that are kind of going more on the sand. Some splashes over here on the right. Keep in mind with this ocean, a lot of the background is going to be covered up by the umbrellas. So we're not really going into a lot of detail with the ocean. And in fact, if you want to keep it as simplified as possible, and then maybe you can add more splashes later after we paint the umbrellas in areas that we can see the splashes through the umbrellas, we can do that. I'm going to switch brushes here. This is an optional step, and it kind of goes with what I was just saying. It kind of goes against what I was just saying about not adding too much detail in the water. But if you want to, you can take this is the 3/8 inch angle brush, and I'm just going to go in and maybe do a few, and this is just titanium white. And if it's too bright, add a little bit of blue into it to kind of dim it down. So some of these water lines, I'm just adding those kind of around the waves. If they're far away, you want to make them smaller, and if they're closer, you want to make them bigger. We can also do the same thing with our darker colors. So the primary blue, I'm going to grab some of that on my brush and just go in here and maybe do some darker blue lines. And we want to wait for everything to dry because the next step is going to involve us drying all of the umbrellas. So I'm going to actually start with pencil but switch to chalk here. The chalk will help show up better, and also we can erase the chalk easily. But I found it easy when drawing these umbrellas to draw your pole first, the umbrella pole, and do it. So I want to do different angles for my umbrellas. If you want all of your umbrellas to be up straight, you can. I just like the variety of the angles. It makes it fun. So definitely you can change this however you want. I'm going to go back in with chalk so you can see this. So you draw the pole first, and then you do your half circle shape above that. And then for the bottom edging, you can do like curved bump lines for the edging. The instructions for this, if you look at the written instructions for this tutorial, it does show you a little bit of a step-by-step drawing guide for these umbrellas if you like to use that. And so this one, again, the pole, for this pole I made it go all the way to the top, and then half circle and little curved lines. And you can do different kinds of edging for the umbrellas. They don't have to all be the same. This one again, this one's kind of slightly angled line, a half circle for the top, and then little curved lines. I'm going to change this a little bit. So chalk will erase with, you can erase it with your finger, or you can get a clean wet paintbrush, and I find that helps to erase it. I wanted to do some overlapping, so I'm going to make this one overlap and also go more at an angle. And then, so I'm going to do 5 umbrellas for this. If you're working on not a panoramic canvas, you can do exactly what I'm doing. Just make your umbrellas closer together, and it'll turn out very pretty that way too. And this one, same thing, little half circle, little curved lines for the edging. We would have room for 6 umbrellas if I wanted to add a 6th one. I'm going to adjust this one. So see, for the paintbrush, you want to make sure you're using a clean wet paintbrush, not one that has little bits of blue paint on it like what I just did. And you just erase it. Sometimes I use a baby wipe to wipe the chalk. You just want to be really gentle with the wipe because sometimes it can lift the paint. So I'm going to adjust this umbrella. So this one's going to go maybe just straight up. Some of the umbrellas can overlap part of the horizon line. Some, if they're kind of lower or smaller umbrellas, maybe they won't overlap the horizon line, but you want to just kind of pay attention to your spacing and the bottom of the poles. So each of the poles reach like the bottom half part of the sand area. So when you're happy with the way your drawing looks, we're actually going to use titanium white, and I'm going to use the 12 bright brush. It's just kind of an easier brush to work with, but you can switch between the flat and the round. And we want to paint all the umbrella tops titanium white. This will give us a nice primed surface to work with, so when we add our bright color on there, we won't have to go back over it with multiple coats of paint for it to show up, especially because we're working kind of on a dark blue background where these umbrellas are overlapping. So I'm just taking, again, my number 12 bright brush and titanium white. I'm outlining the shape of all the umbrellas and including the bottom edging of the umbrella. As you're doing this, you may notice that the white isn't covering everything completely, and you'll still see part of like the horizon line below it, and that's okay. It does not have to be a very thick layer of white. It'll be enough to help us with coverage when we paint these in. So this one, I'm making the edging, the bottom edging, go kind of the opposite. So they're kind of curves that are going downwards. And then I am going to have my direction of paint strokes change. So these paint strokes are curving with the shape. So curving opposite directions on opposite sides of the umbrella. And that helps to start give us form in our umbrella. If you want to, you can also do that. You also don't have to do your primed layer that way. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So it helps to use the edge of the brush to outline the shape. And then these are curving this way. These are curving this way. So I'm outline this bottom scalloped shape. And then see how the curves are kind of switching directions. That helps to form the shape, give the umbrella more of a three-dimensional look. So this one is going to be overlapping, or the other one's going to be overlapping. We can kind of decide that. This one's going to have kind of that pointed edging on the bottom. And you are allowed to adjust your chalk drawing or pencil drawing if you want to. You can make it bigger or smaller. And then this one is going to have kind of the opposite type of curved edging on the bottom and then fill it in. For the umbrella handles, I'm going to load the color Mars Black onto my paint palette, and I'm going to use a different brush. I'm going to use the 3/8 inch angle brush. If you don't want to use the angle brush, you can also just use a round brush, or if you like using that 8 long round brush that I often use for detail work, you can do that. You can also do this step with a paint pen. That would work. There's multiple ways to paint thin lines on a canvas. And so there's my Mars Black and my 3/8 inch angle. I'm going to load that into the black and then do my lines. So I want to make sure that these are going to line up to the top part of the umbrella, which means I might need to change. I did draw them that way, so they should line up. But if you need to change the angle for whatever reason, this is us confirming the angle that the umbrella pole is going in. So just solid black line. I recommend you give the white layer a little bit of time to dry. If it's not completely dry, that's actually okay. And it should dry pretty fast because that was a thin layer of white that we applied to the umbrellas. I'm going to load my paint palette with Napthol Crimson and Cadmium Yellow medium hue. I'm going to start decorating the umbrellas. This is the fun part. You're welcome to copy my colors and designs that I'm choosing. If you want to customize this to something else, do different colors, that is absolutely okay. You can kind of still use the same techniques, but change the colors up. This is so much fun. So I'm going to take my number 4 round brush. I'm going to start with the umbrella over here on the left. And this one is going to have this kind of blocked pattern where we kind of outline that triangular shape. So I'm going to show you how to do that here. So I'm going to take the red, and all I'm doing is just kind of going along the side of it, but then I want to outline the bottom curve. And I'm leaving a little bit of a gap below that because I want to show some of the under part of the umbrella. I think this is the only umbrella I'm going to do this to. And then this part curves. So it's like a little triangular sail shape. And that's like my first blocked in area. And then you can start doing your second blocked in area. So the second one, I'm going to do orange. To make orange, you mix red and yellow together. So I mixed Napthol Crimson with Cad Yellow. And we do the same thing. So you just outline your blocked area, that little curved part, and then you fill that in. This line would be more straight than that other one we did. And then these all go curved. And then I'll do yellow. actually put a little bit more yellow in this one, kind of lighten it up just a little bit. I'll do pure yellow for the next blocked area, which is going off the canvas. So this one I'm going to have to rinse my brush completely and then grab my yellow. Sometimes it helps to add a little bit of white into your yellow. It kind of brightens it up a bit. And then take this curved, and then this gets filled in. We left the under part of this umbrella showing, so I'm going to take red and mix a teeny tiny bit of black into it. This is going to make a very dark, shadowy red color, and I'm going to paint the under part of the umbrella with that dark red. Next, I'm actually going to switch back to my 3/8 inch angle, so whatever thin brush you used for the pole, and I want to take white and just kind of outline one side of that pole. It gives it a little bit of a highlight, so it's not just black. It makes it look like it's shiny metal almost. So I'm just taking white and I'm going on one side of that black line. We may have to deal with the fact that this part is the under part, so the pole should be overlapping our dark part, but the pole doesn't overlap any of the colored part at the top. So I'm just going back and kind of redefining that bottom opening area. For the next umbrella to the left, I'm going to do green, and I don't have green on my palette already, but I can make green. I can take my yellow and primary blue, mix those two together, and then add some white in there to lighten it up. We might need to play around with this green a little bit because of the blue background. We either need it to be a really dark green or a really light green for it to really stand out. So I'm actually going to do this as a solid green umbrella. So this ended up being more of like an army green almost. But we can play around with this color and lighten it or darken it. So these paint strokes they're curving with the direction of the shape of the umbrella. So they're curving this way. I'm going to get some more yellow onto this to make this more of a brighter yellow green. A bright lime green would actually look really pretty here if you have that in your paint collection. And then these paint strokes are going this way. So you're just filling it in, solid. And later I'm going to add polka dots onto this green umbrella, but for now we're just going to do solid green. I'm going to rinse my brush and actually do a little bit of outline work on the bottom of the umbrella. You can wait till later to do this, but I was being impatient and wanted to kind of outline this one. So I'm going to take brown brush and Mars black. So just the black, and then down here, just want to outline the edging of this. So this one kind of has flat edging to it. Flat, but then it kind of curves up. And then I'm going to take white, and we can do this with any of the brushes actually, but I grabbed this. I'm going to do the white on the other side of the pole. And then since this one was done solid, we don't really see the lines. So I'm going to go and paint those in with white so that they're kind of curved. And this one curves this way. And they all meet in the center top part of the umbrella. The green's a little saturated for highlighting right now, but if you want, you can kind of brush in some lighter paint strokes. So if you go like this, you get a little bit of highlight on the top part of your umbrella. I'm going to move right along to the umbrella in the middle, and this one I want to do navy blue and white stripes that are going horizontally but kind of curved in a way. And so I'm going to rinse my brush, and I'm going to mix navy blue on my paint palette. And navy blue is just simply, I'm going to use primary blue and add a little bit of black in there. So it's going to make my primary blue very dark. I'll get my round brush and grab my primary blue and just add a little dot of black in there, and then a little bit more blue so it's not super, super dark. So there's my navy blue color. I'm going to start at the top of this umbrella, and this is just going to start with like a curved shape at the top, but they're angles. So instead of a curve, it's flat on the bottom, and then we have two angles on the left and the right. And then I'm just going to fill that in. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap, and then I'm going to go in and do this. So angle, so flat on the bottom and two angles on the side. And that gives me my first stripe. And I'm just going to continue this pattern, skip, and do the same thing. When we get to the bottom, I'm just going to outline the bottom edging of this. If we want, we can change that color. I'm actually making it just slightly darker. It almost looks like it's just black down here. And so I just outlined that bottom part. The white we can go in and do, but I'm going to wait for the navy blue to dry before doing the white stripes because we can still see, I don't want to smear the navy blue, but I did go and do the pole, which ended up being too much white. So I'm going to go back with more black, since we don't want to lose the fact that we need contrast to see the umbrella pole. So it's got to be dark, but with a little highlight on the side. I'm going to do the next umbrella, and that one is going to be deep violet and white, a pattern with deep violet and light deep violet. So I'm going to get the color deep violet, load that on my paint palette, and then use the number 4 round brush to paint that in. So it's going to be the same exact technique that we did with the first umbrella that's on the far right, only we're using purple and light purple. So I'll start over here on the right and fill this in so that there has to be like a blocked area that's curved, so that triangular area. It has that scalloped bottom to it, but this one we don't see the opening of the umbrella. To make the light purple color, just take your purple and mix white into it until it's a lighter tint of that color, and then do your second little blocked area. So you do your curve, and then define that, and then it's curved on the left side. And then grab your purple. So I'm doing a pattern of dark and light, and just outline the next little triangular area and fill it in with curved paint strokes. And this one, we can actually make this one a little bit whiter. I'll do that later, and a few little highlights. And then we have the umbrella on the far left. So that one I'm going to do yellow, because yellow and purple look really pretty together. So I'm going to rinse my brush and do Cad Yellow Medium, and I'll do something similar. We can do yellow, white pattern, or again, if you want to change it up, if you want to do like a solid yellow umbrella, that would look really pretty too. Or maybe yellow with black polka dots would look pretty. So I'm getting my number 4 round brush ready for this one. I'm going to do yellow, and then this one we have kind of the curved bottom where these are curving this way. So that means the triangle is going to go like this, all the way to the top edge of the umbrella. And then we want to skip, because I'm going to do white as the in-between color. And so this is going behind our purple umbrella. And this one I am seeing some of the ocean color behind it, just because yellow is a light color. So we can go back over this after it dries with a second coat of paint, so that we don't see that horizon line through the umbrella. I'm going to do a second layer of titanium white on the white triangular areas, and also the white stripes on our navy blue and white striped umbrella. So I'm just taking some fresh titanium white, rinsing my brush, and then painting this in solid. So this should allow for anything that's showing through to not show through anymore, because this is the second layer of white we're adding right here. And then I'm going to do a second layer of white for the stripes on this umbrella. I'm going to make a dark brown color next for the sand, so we can have little piles of sand at the base of the umbrella poles. So we can make brown, or if you want to grab brown from your paint collection, you can grab any kind of brown for this. But I'm going to take purple and yellow. It's the deep violet and the Cad Yellow Medium. And then it's going to make this kind of golden color, golden dark maroon color almost. And then let's see, we need a little bit of blue. So I'm going to take some more primary blue and add that to my palette and mix a little bit of blue into that. It'll give us more of our brown color. And if we take a little bit of titanium white and add that into it, that'll kind of lighten that brown. It needs to just be darker than the initial sand color so it can show up. And then I'm taking my 4 round brush and just dotting little piles of sand at the base of the umbrella. I'm going to do this to all of the umbrella poles. And just for fun, I'm going to take a little bit of white and maybe a little bit more of the Naples Yellow. So that's the original sand color. And I'm just going to take this and go back and kind of highlight the sand. Those are dark layered. I'm just going back over it with some more without covering all of it. Just gives it an extra lighter color on top of it. And also, I'm going to take that color and just kind of loosely brush. So this is that sand color, the darker color, and just loosely brush little horizontal marks just to give some more color and interest in the sand area. I'm going to go back to my purple umbrella and add another lighter color part of the umbrella that I was starting to add earlier, but I'm going to go back and finish what I was doing. So this is purple and white, so I'm adding another little piece over here on the right, but it's not going to be as big, so it's going to kind of make it look like the umbrella is turned or we only see this part of it. So this is purple and white, and I'm just going in and doing another little piece, and it's curved on the bottom. The next little detail I'm going to do for the umbrellas is add the little kind of point that's on top. The top center of all of these either gets like a little circle or you can do like a little pointed shape. And I'm just doing this with the round brush and Mars Black. So this one I'm going to have like a little tiny point that's going up. Then I'm going to show you how we can add highlights to these umbrellas to give them more of a three-dimensional realistic look. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my number 4 round brush and I'm going to take my colors. So I'm going to start with the red. And I want to mix white with red just to get a lighter version of this red. So this is white and red. And I'm going to loosely highlight or kind of outline the edging of it with that lighter color. And that gives you that kind of shiny look already. So I'm going to do the same thing for the orange. So whatever color you're working with, take that color and add white to it. This one did not get enough white. And a little bit more. So this on the right side and the bottom, and maybe kind of drag. I like how that looks. So I just kind of dragged that lighter color in curved strokes inwards, and that gives it that three-dimensional look. And we're going to do the same thing with the yellow. So take yellow and add white to it. Kind of outline the bottom and the left edge, and then drag little curved strokes. I'm going to do something similar to the green umbrella, but still kind of different. So I'm going to take my lighter color. So white, green, and yellow. And actually using more of a yellow here. And I'm just taking the bottom part of it and kind of dragging that color over the green without kind of covering it up. Gives it kind of a lighter color, but it also kind of highlights it without using too much white. For the navy blue and the navy blue and white striped umbrella, I'm going to actually take my navy blue color, maybe add a little bit of white to it. I don't want to lose how dark. I like how dark these stripes are, so I'm just going to kind of add this to maybe one side and maybe the other side, but not the center of it. I'm rinsing my brush off, and I'm actually going to take my black, Mars Black. this very, very fine line that I'm going to add, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this from the bottom part and go all the way to the top center part of that umbrella. So that is outlining this line. And then outlining the bottom curves of the edging as well. I like how that looks with the black, so I'm going to repeat this concept on the green umbrella, even though we kind of already did it with white. I'm just going to go back and maybe loosely outline this. Along the edges. And then I'm going to take some green. So I have that dark color, the black on my brush, and I grabbed some of this green. So now this is a darker version of this green, and I'm just outlining the bottom parts of that. And let's see, I'm going to rinse my brush and do some highlighting on the purple umbrella next. So I'm going to take my white, and let's see if we can do this if we just did white, and I'm just kind of dragging this kind of downwards, but just at the top part of the umbrella, on the lighter part of it. I'm just dragging from the top down very lightly, and then maybe for this one, a little bit at the top without overpowering it. And maybe we can go this way, curved with that white, but this is very dry brush style and very light and kind of see-through, so I'm not applying a lot of paint to the canvas while doing that. Gives it that kind of shiny look. And then just how we outlined the other umbrella with the black, I'm going to go in with this one and loosely outline some of the lines with black. So I'm going to do the inner ones, which is a very, very thin black line. You can also do this with a paint pen if that's easier, or just if you don't like the look of the outlining, you don't have to do the outlining. And a little bit on the edge of this one. And then outlining the bottom part as well. I'm going to do a second coat on the yellow umbrella on the far left. So I'm going to take my Cad Yellow, and actually if you add a little bit of white into it, that'll help brighten that up and also help us cover some of that dark horizon line that's still kind of showing through. So I'm going back over the yellow triangular areas with another coat, and this one with the white. So another coat of white paint. This one is also going to get black outlining. So I'm going to take the black and start over here in the bottom and just outline this lining of the umbrella, and then go and outline the interior lines as well. Very, very thin, holding that brush very lightly. Next, I'm going to add light colored polka dots to our green umbrella just to give that one some more fun interest. So this is just titanium white in the round brush, and I'm just going to do little white dots. We can have some more fun with our beach scene and add other details such as a beach ball. So for this beach ball, I'm taking titanium white and I'm doing a little white circle over here on the left. That white needs to dry before we can add the details to it. I'm going to do a glowing sun in the upper right area. So for this, I'm going to still use my round brush. I'm going to take yellow and white, mix yellow and white together and just paint a little tiny kind of circle in the upper left. And then I'm going to take my brush and drag little sun rays outwards. So when you're dragging this, you're taking that paint that's right there, that's already there, and you're pushing it, and you're kind of quickly releasing the pressure of the brush to make your little sun rays look like dry brush style sun rays. Then take your brush and dip it in white and paint a little white circle in the center of that, and that makes your sun look like it's bright and glowing. Make that circle a little bit bigger, and just for fun, I'm actually going to take that white and go ahead and I'm going to drag those outwards too to create more sun rays. And then I'm going to go back and add the white circle in the center of that. Drag a few more longer sun rays outwards. And then one final bright white circle right in the center. And then we can detail our beach ball up after the white has dried. So I'm going to take red, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to start with the red, and you just do like a little triangular area, but the top and bottom of the sides of the triangle are curved. And then yellow for the next triangle, and you just skip a spot and leave that part white. So this curves outwards. So the center little dot of the ball is going to be right in the center of the circle. And then rinse, and I'll use primary blue for the other color. And the little dot in the middle would be a little Mars black circle. Another little detail you can do is take titanium white and do like little water lines way in the distance that just gives the illusion that the sun is sparkling, reflecting on the water. And your lines can be larger, closer to the shoreline, but they're much, much smaller further away. And some of them could be just little dots. I'm going to remake that dark sand color again. So I'm going to take my Naples and purple and a little bit of blue. Add a little bit of red in there, a little bit of white. This one's turning a little bit more gray than I wanted, but that's okay. And then we're going to take this color and do little dots. So same thing that you did earlier with the umbrella poles. And then I'm going to add a little bit of white on top of that. So white mixed with some of the Naples yellow, so that sand color. Again, it's the same thing that we did earlier. We did the dark and then we added the lighter sand color on top of it. Maybe add a few more little dots of sand here and there. And then I'm going to highlight the ball a little bit. I'm going to rinse the brush and then I'll use titanium white. Just a little bit of white just to do a few little kind of curved white lines on the ball. And then if we want, we can outline the ball too with black. You can take this and just kind of loosely outline the edge of the beach ball. I thought about adding a starfish and seashells and a sand bucket, and that's something you can do too, but I didn't go into that much detail after this. I am going to show you how to do seagulls in the sky too. That was one fun thing that I definitely wanted to add to this painting. I'm just touching up the beach ball, another coat of that red. So for the seagulls, we need a gray color, and I'm going to rinse my 4 round and still use this number 4 round, and I'm going to mix black and white to kind of get a medium gray color. So twisting the brush and then make sure all your bristles are gathered. It's tiny, tiny mark. I'm going to do like a little M. So that's a seagull that's far away. And then we can do another little M. So maybe this one's bigger, going at a different angle. And the fun thing is that we can change these. Some are bigger, so they're closer, some are far away. So this one I added more white to my brush. So this is a lighter gray, and then I'm going to do like a little tiny head, body, going at an angle. And that's how we can get it to make it look like the bird is up close so we can see part of the body. I'm going to get some more black. And I'm going to do a little bit of black on my brush without rinsing, and then here on the tips of both of the wings, just add a little bit of black. And then we'll just kind of add more birds all throughout the sky. Big ones, small ones, close-up ones, far away ones. And that is the conclusion of how to paint Seaside Parade. Sign your name, show it off. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and thanks for painting with me.